My stepson expressed a desire to embark on a new experience with me. Very well. Tales from Reddit. A genuine tale of betrayal. What would you do if the one person you were never meant to desire gazed at you with such intensity? The question coiled around my thoughts, persistent, alluring, and forbidden. Yet the thought lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. It began with a fleeting look. Not the sort you offer to your stepson as he strolls into the kitchen, eyes still heavy with sleep and hair in delightful disarray after a night that lingered a little too long. Not the sort you give when he chuckles at your jokes just a tad too enthusiastically. His gaze held for a heartbeat longer than it ought to have. No, this was something else entirely. This was ravenous. Ah, how I wish I had turned my gaze elsewhere. Yet I chose not to. On that fateful night, in the stillness of the house, an unsettling silence lingered. My husband Mark had embarked on yet another journey for work. His third this month. The justifications were becoming increasingly tenuous. The absences stretch on, lingering in the air. I had ceased my inquiries. The quiet that lingered between us spoke volumes in its own way. That remained with me and him. Once upon a time, there was a character named Ethan. My beloved stepson. At 22, a figure of lean muscle and boundless energy, always on the move. With a smile that could thaw the coldest winter and eyes that ignited a fire I dared not to acknowledge. Since the tender age of 16, he had been a part of our lives, following the heartbreaking loss of his mother, Mark's first wife. A tale of resilience and struggle. Swift and merciless. I endeavored to become what he sought. A constant companion, a confidant, a nurturing spirit. But on that fateful night, everything transformed. In the cozy embrace of the living room, I nestled on the couch, a glass of wine in hand, feigning interest in a forgettable rom-com playing softly in the background. The flickering light of the TV cast dancing shadows upon the walls, while the sweet aroma of vanilla from the candle I had lit filled the air. A little something delightful to take my mind off the solitude. Then I caught the sound of his footsteps approaching. Quietly subdued. Consider with intention. Ethan stood in the doorway, his shirt absent, droplets of sweat shimmering on his chest from the intense workout he had just completed. His sweatpants draped casually on his hips, and a dryness crept into my throat. Refrain from gazing. Do not even think about glancing. Yet I did. With a swift motion, he swept his hand through his dark hair. With a confident flex of his biceps, he wore a smirk that spoke volumes. It seems the night has wrapped its arms around you. Restlessness enveloped me as I whispered to myself, struggling to keep my gaze fixed on the flickering screen before me. He remained. Instead, he approached, the warmth of his presence enveloping the space as he settled onto the couch beside me. So near. Much too near. The scent of him lingered in the air. Fresh perspiration mingles with the subtle trace of his cologne, evoking a primal essence of masculinity. Once upon a time, in a world filled with endless possibilities, there existed a tale that began with a single word, my. The pulse surged, a treacherous beat. Are you all right? He inquired, his voice barely above a whisper. Very well. As I lifted the glass to my lips, the rich, velvety wine cascaded over my tongue, a moment of indulgence in the evening's embrace. Yearning for a purpose to occupy my hands. Pause of stillness. Gather round, for I have a tale to share with you. The way he uttered those words sent a thrilling shiver through me, twisting my insides in a delightful dance. Grave. Apprehensive. As I faced him, that was the moment I caught sight of it. The way his gaze fell upon my lips. The manner in which my breath caught in my throat. The way his fingers danced, yearning to bridge the distance between us. Divine presence. What is it, you ask? I murmured softly. He gulped, his throat moving with a noticeable bob. In my journey through life, I have yet to share my path with another soul. The revelation lingered in the air, thick and stifling. Close your eyes for a moment. What is it that you seek? I'm 22, he murmured, his hand brushing over his face as if to wipe away the weight of the world. And I've never known you. Understand. Untouched. My stepson had yet to experience the journey of intimacy. His gaze pierced through me, as if I held the key to a longing that consumed him, sending a shiver down my spine that I couldn't help but resent. Ethan. I began to share my thoughts, but he interrupted me. I don't want just any girl, he declared, his voice gravelly. I desire it to hold significance. My heart pounded fiercely. In time you shall encounter someone. I have already done that. The breath escaped from my chest. His hand sought mine, fingers intertwining with a gentle touch, rough yet comforting. For ages, I've yearned for this moment. Every logical whisper urged me to retreat. To chuckle it away. To bring to his mind, to bring to my own, that this was not right. Yet, in that moment, his thumb glided over my knuckles, slow and sensual, and something deep within me shattered. I ought to have declined. I ought to have fled. Yet when his lips finally brushed against mine, fervent, insistent, flawless, I allowed him to continue. And that was the moment I brought it all crashing down. The kiss deepened, his hands weaving through my hair, drawing me nearer as if his very existence depended on it. I surrendered to him, my body revealing my secrets with each trembling breath. His touch ignited a blaze, his mouth was sinful, and when he whispered please against my lips, I was lost, said yes, and oh God, it was electric. His hands, unsure at first, grew bolder. My skin ignited where he made contact, each caress of his fingers igniting sparks that danced through my veins. He was eager, desperate, beautiful in his need, and when he finally, not yet, because this is where the tale truly unfolds. Here is the tale of a reckless soul. The bewitching night unraveled the threads of my marriage, shattered my family, and turned my life upside down. And let me tell you, you're in for a surprise. The ending will catch you off guard. My name is Miriam Carter, and by the time I reached the age of 42, I had long since abandoned the notion of happiness. Not that anyone would have surmised. At first glance, my life appeared to be one that others would long for. A vast suburban abode, a thriving partner by my side, and a gleaming smile that shielded me like a suit of armor. Yet, hidden behind the meticulously crafted facade, I was sinking. There was a time when I was different. Once I was the girl who painted her dreams in vibrant hues. In college, I immersed myself in the captivating world of art history, dreaming of the day I would wander through galleries across the globe. And then, the truth unfolded. Amidst the weight of student loans, a looming recession casts a shadow, while the relentless, stifling urge to find stability grows ever more intense. It was at that moment that I crossed paths with Mark. A union forged not in passion, but in practicality. Mark Carter possessed a certain charm that was undeniably polished and refined, fitting seamlessly into the corporate world. Of path. Neatly groomed, keenly observant, with a grin that assured reliability. He had 12 years on me, a divorce behind him, and the silent sorrow of a man who had laid his first love to rest far too early. I felt no love for him. Yet I found myself drawn to him. And at 30, with my aspirations collecting dust, feeling fondness seemed sufficient. After a journey of 18 months, we exchanged vows and began our new chapter together. A wise choice, my mother remarked. He will look after you. And he did indeed. Only not in the ways that truly counted. The blended family that always felt out of place. Upon marrying Mark, I found myself embracing a shadow, Ethan, his son who was just 16 at the time. Ethan embodied the essence of a storm cloud, a tempestuous spirit wrapped in the guise of a man. Haunted, withdrawn, still aching from the loss of his mother. In those early months, his words were few and far between, almost as if he were guarding them closely. He shot me a look from beneath his tousled dark hair, as if I were an unwelcome guest in his world. Endeavored. Oh, how I endeavored! I prepared the dishes he loved most. Ah, the delightful dish of spaghetti, infused with an abundance of garlic, beckons with its aromatic allure. I was there to witness his soccer games unfold. He never sought my presence in the stands. I even framed a photo of his mom and left it on his desk. Furniture piece. With a swift motion, he cast it into the depths of a drawer. One fateful night, a haunting sound pierced the silence, the unmistakable sound of weeping drifting through his bedroom door. I chose not to knock. Remained silent. I found myself seated outside, my back resting against the wall, and lingered there until the weeping ceased. The following. In the early hours, he brewed a cup of coffee for me, a first that lingered in the air like a promise. It had been consumed by flames. I savored every drop. Time flowed onward. As the years passed, Ethan transformed into a man. With broad shoulders and a quick wit, he carries his father's smile, yet lacks the restraint that came with it. He embarked on his journey to college, returned home, and drifted through a series of part-time jobs. Mark feigned ignorance to his son's aimlessness, just as he feigned ignorance of my presence. Our union was not harsh. It was devoid of life. We ceased our contact. Ceased the conversation. Rested side by side, like two souls in a shared space, yet worlds apart. I convinced myself it was just a part of life. The flame of that passion dimmed. For all. In that moment, I discovered him sending messages to her. Last night lingers in my mind, a vivid tapestry of moments that refused to fade. He spun a tale that it was a colleague. Misstep. I found it hard to accept his words. But what was there for me to do? Depart. Begin anew at 42 with a blank slate. Thus I remained. As darkness envelopes the world, the night unfolds its mysteries. It was the night when everything transformed. It was 3 months before the kiss that I truly laid eyes on Ethan, not merely as my stepson, but as a man. He returned home in the late hours, the scent of beer mingling with the warmth of summer's embrace. His t-shirt wrapped snugly around his chest. As I stood at the sink, rinsing a delicate wine glass, he quietly approached from behind to fetch a glass of water. His chest grazed against my back. Stilled. Indeed, he did. For a fleeting moment. The atmosphere surrounding us buzzed with energy. With a quiet murmur of apology, he turned and walked away. Yet, his gaze remained, holding on a moment longer. And for the first time in years, I felt truly acknowledged. The revelation that shattered my world. I've never shared my life with another soul. When Ethan confessed his virginity, I ought to have chuckled it away. He was playfully teased. Played the maternal card. Yet, the gaze he cast upon me, as if I were the key to a long-sought salvation, unraveled me completely. For years, no one had gazed upon me in such a way. Not Mark. No one at all. As his fingers glided over my wrist, silently inquiring, I found myself making the fateful choice that would lead to our downfall. Allow him. Why you find a connection with her, even if it stirs feelings of self-loathing within you. It seems you are casting your gaze upon me with scrutiny. I hear it in the stillness, a profound quiet envelopes the world. How could she? What sort of woman engages in such actions? Yet, let me share the reality. All I desired was Ethan. I yearned to be desired. To rise above being merely a background character in the narrative of my own existence. As his lips met mine, after a decade apart, a spark ignited within me, awakening a sense of life I thought I had lost. On that fateful night, the world came to a standstill. On that sultry summer evening, the air was thick, wrapping around you like a heavy cloak, making every piece of clothing feel like an unbearable burden. Mark had embarked on yet another journey for his business endeavors. The very same journey he embarked on each month, always coming back with a subtle the scent lingering on his collar, a fragrance that belonged to someone else. The silence of the house hung heavily in the air, an emptiness that echoed through its halls. It was just me, a half-empty bottle of Merlot, and the restless energy of a man who wasn't my husband, weaving a tale of intrigue and unspoken desires. Once upon a time, there was a character named Ethan. He had been unlike himself all week. More gripping. More vivid. Hovering in thresholds, gently grazing past me in the corridor. His gaze lingered for just a second too long. As I reclined on the couch, the sunlight danced across my bare legs, casting a warm glow that seemed to linger in the air. I assured myself that I remained oblivious. Joy. Gathered around the kitchen table, we found ourselves immersed in a game of cards. A foolish drinking game he had picked up during his college days. With a playful grin, he took a sip of his beer and quipped, "Strip poker would be more fun." I let out a sigh of exasperation. Ah, the longing for something beyond reach. Yet my pulse quickened. For he was not merely jesting. I observed it in the manner his fingers danced upon the table, filled with an unyielding restlessness. In the way his eyes deepened when I savored the wine from my lips. And then, he betrayed trust. With intention. What nonsense! I chuckled, challenging him directly. Are you certain? His voice lowered, gritty and textured. Perhaps it's the sting of defeat that doesn't sit well with you. I extended my hand toward his cards. With a tender touch, he grasped my wrist. His hold was gentle. Yet, it wasn't quite loose either. And his thumb, oh, his thumb, caressed the tender skin beneath my palm in languid, intentional circles. The atmosphere surrounding us grew dense. Neither of us stirred. Then, a voice emerged, barely above a whisper. Urge me to cease. I did not. Before I could even gather my thoughts, his lips met mine. In a state of utter despair. Starving. With a gentle touch, their lips met, a moment of pure sweetness lingering in the air. Was soft and kind. It was a declaration. All teeth and tongue, a yearning held within. His hands wove through my hair, and a moan escaped my throat, a sound of pure pleasure. I ought to have distanced myself from him. Instead, I held on to him tightly. His form pressed firmly against me. Every sinew taut and every surface ablaze. He carried the scent of sweat and inexpensive brew and a shadowy concoction that twisted my gut. As his fingers glided beneath my shirt, calloused and eager, I surrendered to the moment. I desire you, he murmured against my lips. For ages, I've yearned for this moment. I did. For I had desired it as well. The kitchen counter pressed against my back as he hoisted me onto it, sending the wineglass tumbling to the floor. It fell apart, scattering across the ground. Neither of us had a care in the world. His lips journeyed along my neck, teeth grazing my pulse point, and I tilted my head back with a breathless gasp. His hands, oh, those hands, roamed freely, tracing the contours of my body as if he had etched every curve into his dreams. He confessed, his voice trembling with emotion. I've pondered this deeply. Each evening. The revelation should have filled me with dread. Yet, for the first time in years, I felt a sense of recognition wash over me. The revelation that shattered my soul. I have yet to share my journey with another soul. When Ethan confessed his virginity, I ought to have brushed it aside with a chuckle. She playfully nudged him, bringing out her maternal instincts. Yet the gaze he cast upon me, as if I were the key to a fervent wish, unraveled me completely. For years, no one had cast such a gaze upon me. Not Mark. No one at all. As his fingers delicately traced my wrist, a silent question hung in the air, and in that moment, I made the fateful choice that would lead to our downfall. Allow him. Why you find a connection with her, even if it fills you with self-loathing. It seems you are forming an opinion about me at this moment. In the stillness, I perceive it. How could she? What sort of woman would do that? Yet, let me share the reality. I simply yearn for Ethan. I yearn to experience the warmth of desire. To rise above being merely a backdrop in my own narrative. As his lips met mine for the first time in 10 long years, a spark ignited within me, awakening a sense of vitality I thought I had lost. On that fateful night, the world came to a standstill. On that sultry summer evening, the air was thick, wrapping around you like a heavy cloak, making every piece of clothing feel like an unbearable burden. Mark had embarked on yet another journey for his business endeavors. Each month, he embarked on that familiar journey, always finding his way back. With a delicate scent lingering on his collar that didn't belong to me. The silence of the house hung heavily in the air, an emptiness that echoed through its halls. Just I, a half-empty bottle of Merlot, and the restless energy of a man who wasn't my husband. Once upon a time, there was a character named Ethan. He had been unlike himself all week. More gripping. More engaged. Hovering in the thresholds, gently grazing my side as we passed in the corridor. His gaze lingered just a second too long on my bare legs as I stretched out on the couch. I whispered to myself that I remained unaware. What a brilliant illumination! Gathered around the kitchen table, we engaged in a lively game of cards. A ridiculous drinking game he had picked up during his college days. With a playful grin, he took a sip of his beer and quipped that strip poker would be more entertaining. I let out a sigh of exasperation. The desire is palpable. Yet my heart raced. For he spoke with a sincerity that left no room for laughter. I observed it in the manner his fingers danced upon the table, filled with an unquenchable restlessness. In the way his gaze deepened when I savored the wine from my lips. And then, the tale unfolds. He betrayed trust. With intention. What nonsense! I chuckled, confronting him directly. Are you certain? His voice fell, gravelly and textured. Perhaps it's the sting of defeat that doesn't sit well with you. I extended my hand toward his cards. With a tender grip, he captured my wrist. His hold was gentle. Yet, it wasn't quite free-flowing either. And his thumb, caressed the tender skin beneath my palm in slow, intentional circles. The atmosphere surrounding us grew heavy with unspoken words. Neither of us stirred. Then, a voice emerged, barely above a whisper. Urge me to cease. I did not. His lips met mine in a moment so swift, it left no room for thought. In a state of utter despair. Starving. The kiss held a sweetness that lingered in the air. Was soft and kind. It was a declaration. Every tooth and tongue, a surge of unfulfilled desire. His hands wove through my hair, and a soft sound escaped my lips. Ripped from my very being in a surge of ecstasy. I ought to have distanced myself from him. Instead, I held on to him tightly. His form pressed firmly against me. Every sinew taut, every surface ablaze. He carried the scent of sweat, cheap beer, and an undertone of something more sinister. The man who caused my stomach to tighten. As his fingers slipped beneath my shirt, calloused and eager, I surrendered to the moment. I desire you, he murmured against my lips. For ages, I've yearned for this moment. I did. For I had desired it as well. The kitchen counter pressed against my back as he hoisted me up onto it. Toppling the wineglass. It fell apart, scattering into pieces on the ground. Neither of us felt a flicker of concern. His mouth journeyed down my neck, teeth grazing my pulse point, and I tilted my head back with a gasp. His hands danced across my skin, tracing the contours of my body like a master cartographer charting uncharted territory. He had etched it into the fabric of his dreams. He confessed, his voice trembling with emotion, that he had pondered this deeply. Each night. The revelation ought to have. Filled with dread. The tale unfolds. How long did you believe you could remain in the shadows? The message arrived at 2:37 a.m. I remained. Stirring, ensnared in the fabric. My body still resonates with the echoes of Ethan's touch from hours ago. Mark lay beside me, lost in his dreams, completely unaware. Suddenly, my phone illuminated the darkness. Mysterious digits. In the span of a single day, the tale must unfold before him. Or I shall. Included was yet another image. Ethan pinned me against the hallway wall, my head tilted back, his lips brushing against my throat. A wave of unease washed over me. There was a whisper of knowledge in the air. And they were not merely spectators. They lingered in anticipation. For the next 6 hours, I found myself enveloped in a fog of panic, racing through a whirlwind of possibilities. The one next door. Mrs. Wilkins, ever the watchful observer, often appeared to be gazing through her blinds whenever Ethan's car lingered in the driveway beyond the usual hour. Mark's tale. The keen observer, a woman of detail, who had unwittingly shared those dinner receipts with me. Or, for heaven's sake, may Mark himself lend a hand. Setting a trap to discover the depths of my descent. Ethan, upon seeing the texts, merely offered a sly smirk. Allow them to speak. Are you out of your mind? I let out a sharp breath. This might spell our doom. He cradled my face, his thumb gliding over my quivering lip. Or it might just be the key to our liberation. The following message was even more troubling. Unfamiliar digit. Join me under the stars this evening. 9 in the evening. The weathered boathouse. Arrive by yourself. Or the entire town bears witness. I gazed at the words until they danced before my eyes. This was more than mere blackmail. It was a moment of truth. There he was, Mark, nestled in his study, the amber liquid cascading into a glass already brimming to the edge. His knuckles were pale, gripping the bottle tightly. We must have a conversation, I expressed. He kept his gaze fixed downward. Let me share with you the tale of Ethan. The breath escaped from my chest. He was aware. All this time, he was aware. I anticipated fury. Once upon a time, there was a lap, a cozy space where stories began and dreams took flight. Let out a piercing cry. Instead, Mark let out a weary sigh. I've been eagerly anticipating your words. My eyes were aflame with tears. What is the duration? From the very beginning. He finally met my gaze, his own void and empty. The lenses captured your every move. Devices that capture moments. The impact landed with the force of a blow. He had captured our moments on film. Mark gently pushed his laptop in my direction. In view? In the kitchen, there was Ethan and I. His hands slipped beneath the fabric of my shirt. Within the cozy confines of the living room. My lips brushed against his neck. Within the confines of our shared sanctuary. You orchestrated this, I whispered. I sought the evidence. His voice carried an unsettling tranquility. For the separation. A chilling awareness enveloped me. He sought to lead me astray. Thus, he could depart unblemished. Then arrived the ultimate strike. Mark spoke softly, a weight in his voice. Ethan's gone. What is it that you seek? He was sent to his grandfather's place in Colorado. forever. He savored his whiskey. Unless you wish for me to take legal action. My blood froze in my veins. Mark had woven this into his grand design. Each step. Each step. And now he possessed every card in the deck. With a sudden burst of energy, I dove for the laptop, sending it crashing to the ground. Mark stood resolute. It's all backed up, he stated with a calm assurance. I felt an overwhelming urge to let out a cry. Instead, I took the path that lay before me, the only choice I had in that moment. He dashed forward. In the stillness of the boathouse, silence reigned supreme. Not a blackmailer. There shall be no clash. Merely my image mirrored in the shadowy depths. A woman who had staked it all. And vanished into the unknown. Mark sprang into action without hesitation. The documents made their way to me 3 days following my unsuccessful attempt to flee. Presented by a lawyer with an unyielding expression, who would not meet my gaze. The conditions were harsh. No alimony. Infidelity Clause, Section 4b. No claim to the house. Transgressions within the bounds of matrimony. Exhibit D. Video files. There has been no communication with Ethan. A restraining order is on the horizon. I etched my name at the bottom, my hands trembling, and silently returned it without a sound. What could possibly be expressed? I brought this upon myself. In a small town, whispers of scandal spread like wildfire. As I finally gathered the courage to venture outside, the stairs trailed behind me like whispers in the dark. The grocery store cashier, a familiar face from my past, pressed her lips together and averted her gaze. People from across the street turned away, their eyes averted. The barista at the coffee shop, once so familiar, now acted as if I were a stranger, ignoring my presence entirely. I had shed the identity of Miriam Carter, the esteemed spouse and loyal companion. I was that woman. The individual who shared a bed with her stepson. The individual who brought an end to her union. The one who allowed herself to be ensnared. I attempted to reach out to Ethan. Once upon a time, there was a number, 8. 20 times. His number had vanished into the ether. Mark had woven that into the fabric of his plans. The final moment I laid eyes on him, he was consumed by rage, untamed, vowing he would discover a path back to me. Yet that moment came before his father cast the shadow of legal doom upon him. Before he embarked on his journey to Colorado. Before he understood that I wasn't worth the price. On a chilling November night, I made my way to the lake. The very spot where Mark and I once took Ethan fishing all those years back. The water was as dark as night. Infinite. I stood at the edge, my toes curling over the dock's splintered wood, tears streaming down my face as I lamented the path my desires had carved for me. Would anyone be interested? Suddenly, a vibration stirred in my pocket, beckoning my attention. A solitary communication from a mysterious source. Refrain from doing that. I never discovered the sender of it. Yet I paused. Ultimately, all turned out well. As the first light of dawn crept into the room, I stirred from my slumber. I embarked on a journey to a new state. I have altered my name. I embarked on a new chapter, taking a job at a bookstore where my past remained a secret, hidden among the pages of countless stories. On certain nights, Ethan still visits my dreams. His hands, his mouth, the way he gazed at me as if I were the sole treasure in his world. Yet the truth comes back to me. I was never the tale he wished to tell. I was merely his act of defiance. And he belonged to me. Longing burns like a flame. Envelopes you. Excites you. And if you're not cautious, it could very well unravel your existence. A year later, a postcard found its way to me. No return address. Only 3 words, penned in a handwriting that feels like home. Did it hold value? I remained silent. Yet, beneath it all, the answer was already a resounding no. Ethan's future life unraveled in a tapestry of sharp, relentless consequences that took shape the instant his father sent him away. Deprived of his trust fund, his reputation, and any ties to the woman he vowed he couldn't survive without. He came to Colorado, eyes sunken and filled with rage, collapsing onto his grandfather's couch in a small mountain town where the whispers of his disgrace echoed before he even set foot off the bus. The murmurs trailed behind him, ethereal and haunting. Ah, there lies the lad who found himself entwined in a most peculiar situation with his stepmother. The one who shattered his family, and despite his attempts to drown the memories in whiskey and wild bar brawls, the truth clung to him like a second skin. His once enchanting smile has transformed into a mocking sneer. His confidence transformed into a bubbling fury that led to the loss of job after job, leaving him with nothing but the toil of manual labor. Under the relentless sun, he swung his hammer, each strike a testament to his grit, until his hands bled from the toil. Throughout it all, his father's lawyers ensured that he remained unable to reach out to Miriam. It hardly held significance after the 5th. A letter left unanswered, dispatched to her former address, each one steeped in growing desperation. I still love you. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'll find a way back to you, but she was already gone, vanished into some new life where he didn't exist. The realization carved something out of him, something vital, leaving him hollow until one night, drunk and trembling in a motel room. With a trembling voice, he reached out to his father after years of silence, asking, "Why did you do this to me?" Exclusively for Mark. With a chilling certainty, "You brought this upon yourself," and in that instant, Ethan grasped the truth. In the shadows of his choices, there lingered no salvation, no triumphant return, only the heavy, stifling burden of a misstep that would etch itself into the very fabric of his being for all time. He ceased the struggle, abandoned his dreams, and allowed the years to wear him down into a figure more rigid, more frigid, a man who floated through connections like a specter. Unable to place faith in others, devoid of genuine closeness, perpetually anticipating the inevitable downfall, until one fateful autumn evening, as the 30th year approached. He stood before a diner in a town that seemed to exist on the fringes of reality. A place where stories lingered in the air like the scent of coffee in Greece. Observing a woman through the window, her resemblance to Miriam was striking enough to stir a deep ache in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a decade. He let his mind drift, pondering the question, what if I had chosen to walk away? Yet, the notion weighed heavily, too burdensome to bear, thus. He lit a cigarette, turned up his collar against the wind, and continued his journey. For some paths only lead in one direction, and his had reached its end long ago. The tale unfolds as a harrowing. A cautionary tale unfolds, revealing the destructive power of forbidden desire and the irreversible consequences of selfish choices. It illustrates how a fleeting moment of passion can unravel entire lives, leaving a trail of heartache and regret in its wake. When reason is cast aside in the name of desire, it becomes clear that what starts as an exhilarating defiance frequently culminates in solitude and remorse. Miriam's journey illustrates the profound impact of emotional neglect in a marriage can open the door to perilous temptations, yet it never serves as a justification for betrayal. As the tale unfolds, Ethan's fate reveals the ways in which youthful obsession and inexperience can be twisted into lasting harm. The tale underscoring that taboo relationships come with concealed consequences that extend far beyond the surface. In a tale woven with threads of physical pleasure, the fabric of trust unravels, leading to fractured families and indelible marks on one's identity and social standing. Neither character escapes the turmoil unscathed, as Miriam finds herself on the precipice of losing her marriage. In a world where home and dignity intertwine, Ethan finds himself adrift, losing not only his future but also the ability to forge healthy relationships. This tale reveals the stark reality of how society harshly judges those who stray from essential moral boundaries. Especially when the balance of power is skewed, the narrative unfolds to show how effortlessly desire can transform into obsession and how swiftly secrets transform into weapons wielded by the wronged, as Mark's icy revenge reveals that certain betrayals can stir a calculated cruelty even in those once thought gentle. In a world of indifferent partners, this tale serves as a cautionary reminder that forbidden romances seldom lead to shared joy. Instead, they often spiral into a cycle of asymmetric destruction, where the more vulnerable soul, Ethan, bears the brunt of the heartache. Disproportionately, the conclusion suggesting that some mistakes cannot be undone no matter how deeply regretted, only endured as permanent lessons, the narrative ultimately functioning as a shadowy reflection revealing to the audience their own capacity for ethical downfall when deprived of affirmation and connection, inviting readers to reflect on the voids in their own lives that may render them vulnerable to similar temptations, while affirming that certain boundaries are essential for depth. Societal and psychological reasons intertwine, with the narrative structure itself acting as a guide to moral lessons, ensuring that neither protagonist discovers redemption nor reunion, but instead faces the empty consequences of their choices. Choices made, the absence of a happy ending serves as a reminder that some lines, once crossed, remain forever beyond reach. The lingering question of whether it was worth it hangs over the entire narrative like a shadow, echoing through the final postcards. As the fundamental question that every potential must face before taking action, the essence of the narrative resides in its an unwavering stance against sanitization, embracing the weight of consequences and shunning the allure of easy forgiveness. Instead, it lays bare the raw aftermath of desire, serving as a stark reminder that certain flames are best left unkindled, for they cannot be extinguished once ignited. Mastered, merely endured.